I'm geoscientist in a different direction. I'm an environmental geoscientist. I studied at the Northwest University Potchefstroom campus. They have environmental geology, which is a little bit different than most of the other geology fields. The older generation studied similar geology to what's available at all the other campuses. So they studied mining geology at Porch, but that was discontinued for a while, and then they started with the environmental geology. So I did chemistry, microbiology, and geology. Like I said, our focus is on environmental geology, and everybody knows acid mine drainage, but it's not just that. There's actually quite a bit of other things that is involved in it. However, it is not a resource geologist or a geophysicist or a resource geologist course. We have, obviously, we do all the basics that everybody does, mineralogy and rock identification, everything like that. But we do extra courses and we do extra things. We have quite a bit of soil identification, and we also do a lot of environmental geology and a lot of rehabilitation. So this is basically making the tailings pretty afterwards. Then I did my MSc in environmental geology, which basically comes down to the water and geology interactions. So my thesis was on the inorganic chemistry of the Vaal River, which was to classify the Vaal River based on the rock composition. If you see on the right-hand side, that is something we use to say if a river is polluted or not polluted, and that's based on your chemical composition, and quite a lot of it is based on your geology, which will dominate and which will whatever happens in the water will react to that. And at the top is my honors project, what I did on compost. So we were planting plants. I planted a lot of plants in little pots and looked at them grow beautifully for rehabilitation purposes to try and see the different types of fertilizers available. I was fortunate enough to join SRK Consulting as an environmental scientist, a very big company with quite a few different branches that you can go into. They have the resource geologists, they have the geotechnical department, they have exploration department, they have a lot of different things. I did the environmental science section, which basically involved a lot of environmental impact assessments, which you do when you do projects for basically the mines or for Sasol industry, housing developments. It's quite a wide range, and you get to work with different specialists. I got to work with most of the specialists: air quality, surface water, groundwater, biodiversity, wetlands, and then you get to learn all of these different aspects as well. What I did get to do is I did get to do some geochemistry reporting. So that's geochemically doing an assessment on a tailings, and this is where the acid mine drainage comes in also, where you go to the gold mine and you look at what's the composition of the tailings, or you go to the platinum mines, or you go whichever mine, copper mine, whatever. You look at what the tailings composition is, you put it under stress, water stress, acid leaching stresses, and you see what it comes up with, and then you can say if it's got a high leaching potential and what the impact is towards the environment or towards anything that is needed. If there's a community close by, will it impact them? Part of something like that, and it's a little bit lower down on my list, is like a contaminated land study, where you see the impact of a certain project on the actual soils, on the actual land, and then you do something they call transporter mapping to see how far your contaminants will actually travel through your soil and through your groundwater, to see if it will interact or if it does actually pose a risk to people downstream or in your close area, what is the composition of the soil like? So I also did some soil studies. Like I said, I did lots of impact assessments. Then you get to do mitigation measures, because we're all geologists. So obviously we know how the reefs work, and if it's there, it's there. You can't move the reef just because there's a tree above it. So now you have to try and mitigate it. But what are we going to do with the tree right above my reef? Because I need to mine there. So trying to marry a bit of the good and the bad together, and then also stakeholder engagement. Like I said, I did geochemical reporting. I did contaminated land studies, which was quite fun. I'll show you pictures of some of the things that came out of hand augering in a contaminated area. So you do the classification of the contaminants. I did hydrocontamination studies. So that's basically where you go to the petrol stations or filling stations or refineries or anything like that and test the soils or the groundwater around it, see if there's any leaks. And then you get to, if it is leaking, which it shouldn't be, then you get to do a hydrocarbon recovery program, and you get to, it's quite interesting. You get to do quite a wide variety of things. I also got to do water management because I was quite involved with the surface water people. I got to learn how to identify different water management strategies, how to do the water management, which also comes back to looking at what is in the ground, what is in the soil, where is the ground going, what does the topography look like. I did use some of my studies. I also did waste classification. So this is also where it links back to your geochemical reporting, and it links back to your contaminated land studies. You can do a classification on your tailings, on your waste rock, or on a actual municipal landfill. You can see what's happening there. And I did a lot of authorizations in all of these fields. I did some bioremediation, taking the contaminated land, contaminated soil, putting it in a concrete, I want to say parking lot almost, and putting some bugs in it and having them eat all the chachas in there. Then I was extremely lucky to be working with a guy called Simon Lorenz at SRK, and he is one of the leading people in a new, I say it with inverted commas because it's not very new, but it is quite new, a new line of study called hydropodology, which it's new in South Africa. It's not new all over the world. We look at the soil water interaction. Classical studies of surface water, so all the water on top of this the ground, if I can say it like that. And then you have classical groundwater or hydrogeology, which is the soils deeper below in the water table, everything like that. But the hydropodology is the study of the movement of the water and the contaminants within that little small layer of soil in between the surface and the groundwater, which was quite fun. So on the left-hand side is my bioremediation project. You can see at the bottom looks like green on top of black water. So that was actually the contaminants coming out. Then on the right and at the top, you see this lovely blue or greenish precipitation in pans and on a soil sample, which was a kind of a copper precipitate that we saw at a contaminated site, which was extremely awesome. I mean, like you can see, you can't think it's something else. You can see it's green and it shouldn't be there. It should be brown. Then in the middle, there's a photo of Simon. We had to install some sensors in the river. The sensors were picking, we put the sensors in the river and we dug some holes further inshore or inland. Then you combine the two sensors and see where the water goes, how deep it goes inland, how far it goes in the water, how does it interact with the water, which was quite fun. And then obviously, like Letitia also said, we get to go to remote places, we get to go to interesting places, we get to see interesting things. I got to see a 2-week-old baby elephant. Unfortunately, it was trapped in a mine sump. They had to rescue it. The mommy had left it, so it was abandoned. We took it to the elephant rescue center, which was quite cool. Then I left SRK Consulting and I went to Environmental and Sustainability Solutions as a contractor. I did all of the things above, like the EIAs, the water use authorizations, water management, waste classification, but something was missing. So the name of the company is sustainability. And in the past, there was these 3 pillars of sustainability: social, environmental, and economic, which we all in the kind of environmental part. But the new way of thinking is they're all integrated, and that is actually what sustainability is. The environment isn't just here on its own; it interacts with economy. Excuse me. That is what a resource geologist is. That's what all of you guys know. Economy, environment, those goes together. And then we have the social aspects. I mean, all the rights at the mines, we in South Africa is quite aware of it. So we can't look at them in silos. They have to be integrated. So I got to do a lot of sustainability work and moving towards a circularity within an economy. I did quite a few courses at the CSIR. There's a place called the National Cleaner Production Center, where they have courses towards sustainability and helping companies be a bit more sustainable in terms of their resources. So they have a course called the Resource Efficiency and Cleaner Production course, which is basically teaching the people to use what they have better and cleaner. So not wasting lights or wasting food or something like that. Waste is not just something like a paper I'm throwing away. Wastage is if I leave a room and I'm leaving my light on. I did energy efficiency campaigns. I don't like the energy much, but it's part of the whole triangle. Then I did life cycle assessment, which was quite interesting. I'll explain it a little bit later. I did some corporate and sustainability reporting based on the GRI principles and King 4. I did water footprinting, which I'll also explain a bit later. Then carbon reporting, which I know one of the other talks alluded to how the environmental or the earth sciences closely link back to climate change and climate responsibilities, which obviously that just led into the carbon reporting and carbon management that I was doing, circular economies. And then lastly, tying the whole sustainability together is sustainable development goal integration into business practices. So for energy efficiency, there's a little slogan, SOS, switch off something. I've worked with big brands, Tiger brands, Coca-Cola. It's that little SOS is something that people don't think about. Just for the geologist, I have a joke about my carbon reporting there. I have the greenhouse gases, the 6 ones that are there. A life cycle assessment, we all should have had some type of plant or zoology or botany 101, where the egg becomes a caterpillar. The caterpillar goes into his little cocoon and then he comes out as a butterfly, and then the butterfly lays the eggs and then he goes on. So that's a life cycle. So it's exactly the same with products. You have a life cycle and then you look at what it does. Quite a few years ago, there was a principle, the darker green outside is cradle to gate, which is where I make it up to where it leaves my site. And then I don't care about what happens afterwards. Then we add cradle to grave. So if I make it, I do care where it goes. I care what the consumer does. But as soon as the consumer is finished with it, I don't care anymore. But the new circularity approach is my cradle to cradle. So this dives back into everything. What can we do with our resources to make it last longer? So that's what a life cycle assessment is. You look at every stage in a product or in a thing to see how you can optimize it, where you can go better. And I did this for a mine, and it was quite interesting. It was was so much fun. You wouldn't think it could be possible, but it's nice. You can do it everywhere. Then a water footprint is looking at a finished product, like a cup of coffee, and checking how much water from the start to the end goes into a cup of coffee. 132 liters for 125 milliliters of coffee. My mom doesn't like that because now I basically tell her she has to stop drinking coffee. Then you can see all the other stats that goes along with that. There's one thing that I did learn that I always want to tell everybody in this whole process that I got. If you can save 1 kilowatt of energy, so if I can turn off my light for a little bit to save 1 kilowatt of energy, what are the consequences? So 1 kilowatt of energy in South Africa equates to about R1 saved, equates to about 1 liter water saved, and equates to about 1 kilogram of carbon emissions saved. The 1 liter is Eskom using the 1 liter of water to make not me boiling a kettle. So then I had the opportunity to go to Elemental Analytics. They sell analyzers, they analyzer specialists. I am the greenhouse gas analyzer specialist. We do isotope measurements, quite interesting. We do the respiratory contributions of animals, fish, grasshoppers, anything like that. We do soil monitoring. We do the gas exchanges in plants, which you can see. There's a picture of all the kids sitting around the plants. We do it underground. We do SEMS, continuous emission monitoring systems, which is installed in stacks it's installed in stacks. It does the flue gas monitoring. We do oil monitoring. So I go to places and sell these equipment, but because I have the technical background and I've been in the industry, I know what is needed and I know where to go, and I can give them a good advice and if what they need or what they want, because you will also experience what someone wants and what someone needs is not always the same. That is it for me. So I've gone a very squiggly path to where I am. I don't have a good, nice linear path like most of the other people, which is also okay if that tickles your fancy. I'm enjoying what I'm doing a lot. I get to learn new things all the time, and I get to broaden my knowledge, which is always a good thing. And no, it's been fun. Okay, thank you.